We've all seen the movie The Matrix. It was interesting and fun on the big screen of the TV, but has it become a bit too real in your own life? Are you seeing glitches in the Matrix and trying to figure out what's happening? Have you been told that you've been tricked and that you need to fight against what they've done to you? The deception. Whether you're just beginning to notice, or if you've been searching for a more peaceful and congruent way to live without battling them, you're in the right place. I'm Ken, and I'll be joined by Eliza and Raina Stella. Let's explore together on the Liberty Ark. All right, and we're here for episode 5 of the Liberty Ark Podcast. And today we're going to be talking about the path of liberation, which we've talked some about before, but the next step is understanding the legal and monetary enslavement that we experience. So this should be really interesting. We've talked quite a bit about contracts, and we'll continue that conversation in today because contracts are kind of the basis of this entire process. So, Eliza, you want to do the reading for us?
Episode 5, The Path of Liberation, Legal and Monetary Enslavement. The modern world operates on a complex web of legal and monetary systems designed to maintain control over individuals. These systems are intricate and pervasive, embedding themselves into every aspect of our lives. They create a scenario where the populace is continuously indebted, both financially and spiritually. This indebtedness is not merely a financial burden, but extends to a psychological and existential level. The concept of binding contracts is deeply ingrained in these systems. These contracts, often created without our explicit understanding or consent, bind us in ways that are difficult to break. They are supported by a vast array of legal structures that ensure their enforcement.
So, this is going to be a light conversation today, huh?
Yeah.
We've talked about contracts and how they're binding, and they're supposedly agreements, but agreement would, in most people's mind, constitute both sides fully knowing what's going on. In medicine, they call it informed consent. But if you think about in that situation, if whenever you purchase a pharmaceutical and you pull out the thing that tells you all the data about it, you got informed consent. But did you understand anything about it? Is that truly informed consent if you really didn't have a clue what you just read?
And did you realize it was an implied contract, an unspoken contract, because that one of the other sentences that we read said that these contracts are basically without our comprehension or understanding or conscious consent. And, I think we all grew up thinking, first of all, a contract, if we would consciously choose to engage in the contract or not. And it wouldn't be done for us. And this is saying that a lot of this is not, that it's implied, that it's not, I like the package enclosure that you cited regarding pharmaceuticals, Ken.
Yeah, some of them were maybe implied, but some of them were made even before we were born, right? So the fact that we are comfortable in this pattern or routine of simply just, I agree when we're doing something online or we sign a paper, but are we really, really knowing what that means? And I think that's where we are failing. But there is a fix, definitely. And it's important that we realize that the system is definitely, it runs on a lot of, rules. The majority of those are probably not in our favor. So it's really time to start digging deep before we push that I agree button, or before we, sign that piece of paper. Let's really look at it very closely moving forward.
The interesting thing to me is, like, if, let's say your water bill, I always like to go to that one because everybody's familiar with it. You obviously are in a contractual relationship, right? So you theoretically agreed to it, right? But did you really have a choice? Really? I mean, theoretically, you could just not have water in your house. But, I mean, you signed, but was there an option? A real option? I mean, there's theoretic option. You don't have to sign it, I guess. You just won't have water.
It's like the societal structure, unless you have and I'll call it a luxury of living out in the country, digging your own well, etc. There's not a choice. Electricity, water, basics of existence. Yeah. Good point.
And again, the system is running off of pretty much rules, laws, regulations, money, and contracts. And most of us don't know that we're in the system, or that there is a system, or maybe even look at it like it's more of a game, right? We're in a game. We've been placed in a game, but we don't realize it. And we're playing a game without even knowing or understanding the rules behind it. And I think it's simpler to understand it that way when we really put thought into, all of us have played some type of game,
Let's take this first page of this. Legal and monetary enslavement. Interesting. Enslavement. Controlled by someone else is really what enslavement is, right? It's when you don't have control over your own actions, someone else has control over you. The modern world operates on a complex web of legal and monetary systems designed to maintain control over individuals. So this is saying there's a design to it. It's not accidental. It's purposefully put together, and its purpose is to maintain control over individuals. That's basically the definition of slavery.
And we're caught in someone else's web.
Yep.
And when we look at that there's a legal and monetary web of control, we're told for this slavery, we'll be finding out that we're volunteering for all of it. And there's actually a tripod there of legal, monetary, and then indoctrination, whether it's mainstream media, whether it's the educational system. We're indoctrinated to then volunteer for these legal and monetary controls.
And even
that's why the stool keeps standing.
Yeah, and even more practical stuff, as simple as, when we go and get a phone, right? Or if we want to drive, right? If we want to go get a phone, we have to sign a contract. If we want to drive, we need to sign papers. If we want to go to school, we need to follow the rules of the school. So it's this constant web of the contracts and rules and guidelines that we have to follow, which places us in that enslavement category.
Yeah, even the phrase you just said that we have to follow. I mean, that's somebody else is controlling what we have to do, or at least what we think we have to do.
How we think and live.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Reina Estela said something key when we started, chatting today, that we're going into this and there is a solution that we'll be getting to eventually. And that's why we're hoping everyone is engaging in this conversation with us, because the word have to is a perceived have to. But what's the solution? So we're getting there.
Yes.
But right now we're discussing why we think we have to and why perhaps we volunteered to have to because of our training.
And the training doesn't have to be somebody telling you something or giving you instructions. We learn from our surroundings. So we grow up and our parents did certain things and they told us, oh, when you're 16, you can get a driver's license. And all this whole process occurs almost by osmosis. You see everyone around you doing a certain activity or doing what they're told to do or what the expectation is. And so I don't think most people ever even stop for a moment to question that at all.
And with my analogy, Ken and Eliza, sticking to the game analogy, what if we don't want to play the same way? To your point, Eliza, that we do have a solution on how to stop thinking we have to. What if we don't want to play the same way? Right? What if we understand the rules and even make it our own game? Right? Once we start asking questions and learning how to contract, I guess the meanings of contracts, laws, and money and how it really works, you might be able to stop being a player, or at least the player or performer they placed, the position they placed you in, instead of continuing in that position as the player they assigned you. You become the creator of the game or the creator of your own story.
And this next page goes into these systems, multiple systems that make up what we call the system, right? Are intricate and pervasive, embedding themselves into every aspect of your lives. So the old story is, fish are swimming in water, but you try to talk to them about water, they'll say, what are you talking about? The system is so interwoven into every aspect of our lives that it's a rare person that can even recognize that matrix exists all around you and you're in the center of it.
It's a great analogy, Ken. We don't realize these benefits and privileges are actually disguises for the being lured into the cage. It reminds me, I love the movie Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, but remember the child catcher, that scary child catcher. Ice cream, lollipops, and, that's all you see are the ice cream and lollipops, never knowing that it's really stepping into a cage.
So they create a scenario where the populace is continually indebted, both financially and spiritually. Now, that one's interesting. How do you guys relate to that as far as, everybody I think can relate to the financial indebtedness. Even people that have a lot of money are usually indebted in some way or another, but both financially and spiritually. What are your thoughts on that?
I think we can all relate to it one way or the other, because no matter how careful you are on, or how great you are at money management or budgeting, the emotions behind it, for maybe people that are living paycheck to paycheck, possibly more than maybe people that are well off. But the emotions, right? The anxiety it creates, the possibly depression, or just your mind starts thinking about, you have more focus on your emotions and really more important things that we should be, working towards, just because of that financial status you may have. And everybody's situation is different, but I think we can all relate to it in one way or the other, including the well-off people, like you said.
Yeah, a couple things on that. I think the largest cause, the most common cause of divorces is financial issues. So the stress that it causes in the relationship can be a severe issue. And as far as well-off people, in my experience, a lot of the well-off people that have a lot of money, the stress of not losing that money can be as big a stress as not having money.
But let's talk about that a little bit, because we are saying well-off people, but it's what we visually see and what they are presenting, right? The cover of the book, right? The cover, they want to present themselves a certain way. We visually say, oh, they're well off, right? And a lot of us, and I'll say more here in the United States than any other part of the world, is we are so quick to make sure that our neighbors can see our new clothing, our new car, a better home. But with that, what are we doing behind the scenes, where now it really is impacting us spiritually and emotionally and financially? We're putting a front, but deep inside, we're probably enslaved, right, to the neck because of what we want to present to the world instead of being real. So I think we are assuming the well-off people, but reality is, I think those well-off people are probably the ones that are a lot more in trouble financially and in indebtedness, right? A lot of debt. I don't know if that made sense and if it relates to, but I feel like you guys get my point. The middle class is really what I'm referring to. We're so instant gratification. Let's go out there and get the next, the next tool that's out there, the next iPhone or the next, brand purse or whatever the case is. And we're getting ourselves into trouble versus really looking out for our future.
And I think that's a great point, Reina Estela. That's part of the training or indoctrination. And I was reading some on this the other day, that there's no belief system that's being put forward to us that says, look, if you have whatever you have, it's enough. Nothing ever talks about, look, we have enough. It always says we need a little bit more and a little bit more. And I remember reading, statistically, as we, all of us, because of the training, the indoctrination, as we gain, say, a little bit more in our lives, we always are going to want 25 to 50% more, be it through debt, be it through peer pressure, be it through, our children seeing what their friends have. But there's always that push for more, and therefore the enslavement.
And what comes with the enslavement are those emotions of anxiety,
yes, there's
stress. You can't sleep at night, and then from there, I'm sure illnesses due to those emotions can, become.
And the U.S. has become the consumer of the world, right? That's really our purpose in life in relationship to the world is to consume stuff. They make it. We don't make anything anymore, right? We don't produce stuff. We purchase stuff, which means there has to be more and more and more money pumped into the system to keep us capable of consuming more stuff.
And what is funny, the outside world, outside of the U.S., that possibly they don't have the same luxury we do. They see it. They see our behavior. And when you go and visit them, they think that money grows on trees or that you're sweeping it off the street, right? That you have pockets and pockets to take with you. But that's what we are presenting to them. Our behavior is clear to the world. And now more through social media, of course, everybody sees it. So I have to use the word fools. We are fools, 100%.
But we are bound. We are binding ourselves, and we don't realize it. And what we will be learning along the way is there are underlying contracts since our birth that have perpetuated a myriad of contracts, just from every action, everything we say, and everything we do, because in some way, shape, or form, we were bound to it. We were not of a contracting age, but we were bound to it, and not really realizing, say, after the age of adulthood, we were then responsible for taking on those primary contracts that are now instantly binding us to everything else.
Well, they're invisible papers, right? That we were placed into, right? Before we even have our first breath, I guess you can call it, as a baby. They're invisible papers that were already signed for us. So it's just, kind of creepy to know that there's invisible contracts out there that we are unaware of.
Creepy is a great word for it.
Yes,
it is. Perfect. It is creepy.
But it only creeps you out if you recognize it exists.
Exactly.
The binding of it can be frustrating, even though you don't know it exists. But it's not really creepy until you get it and understand how you've locked yourself in. So the concept of binding contracts is deeply ingrained into the systems. You don't see it unless you really look, but it's ingrained in everything that's going on around us. And we're participating.
And simply look. Right.
Right. It's not all just happened to us. We've participated with it. We just don't know what we've done.
And I'm glad we're having these conversations because, some years back, if I had simply looked without being able to have a community with which to discuss this and have someone kind of start asking me some questions, I wouldn't have known quite how to comprehend what the heck we were talking about. And I'm grateful for that.
Yeah, but what I'm excited about is how to recognize these contracts. And then you said, Eliza, that there's a way out, and we're going to share that with them. So I'm excited to get there.
Yes.
And this is a key here. These contracts, we've kind of alluded to this, but they're often created without our explicit understanding or consent. Doesn't say we haven't participated in it, just we haven't really necessarily understood how we're participating with it. But they bind us in ways that are difficult to break. Difficult, not impossible. They are supported by a vast array of legal structures that ensure their enforcement. So it's not just a rule. It's a whole series of things that all intertwine and work together to maintain control.
Well, yeah, the contracts that are in place, the laws they make pretty much make sure that it makes sure that we follow those contracts. So the system does keep us stuck in that way.
For me, reading these two sentences over and over and over, okay, it's going to basically have you start seeking solutions. But first of all, some understanding. I'm using the word understanding or comprehension. And then perhaps step into the fact that, through a community, helping you along the way, knowing that the intimidation of the legal structure, that doesn't mean mandatory in the end, because there are solutions. But it becomes intimidating because we are purposely, and I'll say indoctrinated, we're taught that if it's legal, then you don't challenge it. There's authority, and if you challenge that, you'll get in trouble. That's not necessarily true, but you have to start, embracing the fact that there are ways to step through this for freedom.
Almost like if they were sacred or magical, right?
Well, and they even have their own language, right? Everybody calls it legalese, right? And everybody assumes you can't possibly understand legalese, right? It's created for the purpose of your not being able to understand it. But that doesn't mean you can't.
Right. And it's used in like trickery or unfair ways.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. Any kind of specialty, for some reason, our society has decided that specialists know everything. The experts know everything. But an expert is just somebody that studied it, right? I mean, attorneys weren't born with law knowledge. They studied and they learned it. Doctors weren't born with knowledge of how to kill people with drugs. They had to study that and learn how to do it, right? That's my bias.
And then the question becomes is, where did they learn it? And who taught it, or who created the curriculum for them, right? For the doctors or the attorneys. So,
and was there an underlying agenda behind all of it? And the internet has kind of created a situation. Can you even remember back? I mean, it was just like 94. I remember getting on the internet, and it seems like we've had it forever now. But the ability to go out and find out information opened up so much, and now we take it for granted. But people didn't have access to talk to each other and to learn things. But at the same time, the internet gives the dark side an ability to intertwine things that are not true in with it. So you have to be careful as you're doing your research. Even though you have the ability to research stuff on your own, you also have the ability to get fed stuff. You've got to develop your own intuition and ability to determine what's real and what's not.
That's very true. So much info out there, but could be misinformation. So being careful and cautious.
That term of discernment, of the developed skill of judgment and filtration through yourself, through your soul, what you feel is right or wrong, to filter it through yourself. Yeah.
I think that's one place where the internet has really become a problem because, back in the old days, we had to evaluate things, but now you just look it up on Google and you just assume that the answer you get's the right answer. So I think it's caused people to really lose a skill of evaluation and critical thinking. And instead, just there it is that says it right there. It must be true.
Now that could be the reading part, but what about people who are just scrolling and they're believing everything that's being posted? Now that's the scare. Now with AI added on to that even more. But yes, it's sort of like like everything else we've talked about it before, is you have to pause and really make your own decision in regards to it. Yesterday, my youngest daughter called me and she's like, "Mom, have you heard of this person? And she's all over the internet." And I'm like, "Natalie, no, I don't have time for that." And she's like, "Well, let me tell you." And then anyways, I love talking to my kids. So I listened to the story and then she told me, you should go. And then once at the end at 12:11, Ken, when we communicated last night, that was the last thing I went in because I want to follow through with whatever I promised my kids. So I went in and I checked it out and I did text her and I said, "Natalie, everything I'm running into about this, it's all very positive and it's only one-sided. I need more information to be able to make my own decision. So I'm not going to be able to answer your question tonight. Give me some time. I'll have to do some more research." Because it just makes no sense at times. And I think that's just an example of how we should take as we're researching this information. There's a lot of people out there presenting it and providing it. And I hate to use the word that, relates really to the topic we're talking about, but it can trap you as well if it's not the correct info. It can hurt you. So definitely you need to pause, make sure that you don't just go with it, make sure you do some research and before you move forward on the steps you're going to take. That's with everything across the board. That's with everything and anything. Is doing your own research.
Anytime I'm researching anything, I always want to see the two opposing sides because there's always at least two.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
And you can, if you just study the one side, you're going to come out with that distortion. And you've got to oppose it with the other. And sometimes you'll go exactly the opposite way once you've evaluated them both. Right? But you owe it to yourself to balance things out and then to go inside and say what makes sense to me.
Yeah. And it's tricky because, AI was mentioned. For instance, YouTube. If you look up something that, say, leans towards one side, the AI will think, well, that's what you like. So it will feed you as suggestions 20 more things towards that side. So you have to purposely, as you said, Ken, you have to seek a balanced perspective and then filter through yourself. It's not easy because the other is so convenient.
Yeah, that word is just so important, I mean, that's how so many people get sucked into things is convenience, right? And these contracts we're talking about, same thing. You just go with the flow. It takes energy to evaluate things and to reconsider. It doesn't take near as much energy just to do what you're told. Just go on down the road. And that can be a real big problem later on, but it's a whole lot easier while you're getting yourself into these things.
Like going downhill, ever have a sled where you're going downhill? Getting into them is easy.
Yeah.
But if you want to, get out of it, get back home, you got to walk back up the hill. And that's hard. Yeah.
And the faster the convenience, the faster you're getting into those contracts, faster you're getting into trouble. So yeah, it's they're making it so easy. They're making them quick. Everything.
Yeah. Well,
quick.
now it's all digital. You don't even have to sign your name to a contract, right? It's just to click this box. And they're going to make the pages, 100 different pages that you're supposedly going to read before you click the box. And there's no way in the world anybody's going to actually read it. And you couldn't change it even if you didn't agree to it. You're just not going to get whatever it is you're trying to sign up for.
It was like, quite frankly, I was trying to set up a printer the other day. And to download any of the software, I had to do the EULA, the end user agreement, license agreement. And I didn't have a choice. And it was hundreds of pages. And it was a one-sided contract. It was me checking the box. But I thought that I either don't use my printer.
Yeah, well, it's exactly.
Or I check the box.
Exactly like Congress. They give them a stack of papers 3 foot high and say we're voting on this in 12 hours. There's no way in the world they have any idea what that thing says. And we can see how dumb it is that they do that, but we do that all day long too. Because it's
easy and sometimes the only practical way to go forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was working on a mortgage, helping somebody out recently, and holy smokes, the number of pieces of paper and signatures that were signed was unbelievable. I've never seen any such thing in my life. And there's no way anybody is reading all those papers and knowing what they're signing.
Because you're under the gun to do it, or you walk away.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, at that point, you've already been to the house, touring the house, selected probably the color you're going to put in it, furniture.
Told all your friends about it. Everybody knows you're going to buy the house.
Yeah.
And that's an obvious contract, right? I mean, there's many, many, many more that we're discussing here that aren't that obvious. But even on one that's that obvious, you're still not reading the stuff and knowing what you're getting into.
And a lot of things, well, we'll go back to my printer. I'd already purchased the printer. What I'm supposed to, okay, now I'm the printer costs, a few $100s. And it's free to get the software, but it was free to go ahead and use it, but I had the contract. It's like, okay.
It's like what they're doing with cars now, right? Where you buy the car, but then you have to pay subscription to get the things in it to work.
Use it. Yeah, fun and games.
And those subscription services are all contracts, right?
Every single one of them. Now, I wanted to just point out and make it very clear, it's not just what we're getting ourselves into by not reading before signing, but also what are we giving away? What rights are we giving away? So it's not just what we're getting into, it's what are we giving away? A lot of the times, that's also what we're doing, is we're giving our rights away.
And that's where the slavery actually comes in. Because when we give those rights away, that means somebody else has control over our rights. We did it voluntarily, though, so it's not against the law, because voluntary slavery is not against the law. Involuntary slavery is. So if somebody doesn't force you into it, but then again, you could say, okay, what's really the definition of force? Right? It's just like with the informed consent. What's really the definition of informed consent? If they gave you a piece of paper that's 3 miles long and that's supposedly informed consent, is that truly informed consent? if you have the option to either sign or not sign, but if you don't sign, you're not going to get your water. Is that truly voluntary?
I mean, I have to say, we are allowed to make mistakes. We are allowed to make mistakes.
And we're allowed to correct them, interestingly enough. We might get
I love that part.
We might get into that at some point here. Not for tonight, but for a future conversation. So there may be some hope. It's not all doomsday.
Oh, that'll be fun when we get to that part.
Yes, I agree. I think that pretty much covers the topic for tonight. Do either of you guys have any kind of final thoughts on this topic?
I
just want
have.
to. Go ahead, Eliza. Go ahead.
No, I would say for me, the summary of today was, and so much of what we're looking at, that there's a legal and monetary structure. They're entangled. Okay, one's enforcing the basically whatever the what I want to say, the obligation to pay, whether which it's your labor or whatever. So legal and monetary performance, we'll call it. And then there's that third piece that is the I call it indoctrination, but it is the teaching of the system. And it's that teaching of the system that we're addressing here, that to question, what have I been taught? What do I have to do? And what can I do differently in my own way? So don't forget, it's a tripod, legal, monetary, and whether it's mainstream media or whatever, their education, etc. That third leg is what's important. So that's all I have to say in summary.
And I just want to repeat that, of course, these chains are invisible. They do come, of course, with consequences, fines, losing things, possibly getting taken to court. But know that with the information we're going to bring you, you will be empowered to make sure that you understand how to retract from those contracts or invisible chains that have been placed on us. But I wanted to just make sure that you guys understand that the empowerment needs to come from you directly. As you receive this information, you will be empowered to take action. And to close this out on my end, I just want to say to you both, thank you both. Together, let's keep leading with heart and clarity, planting seeds of awareness for our next generation. I just want to say I love you guys, and it's been a pleasure today. Thank you so much.
Thank you both. This has been a really fun one. And although some of it's kind of depressing, I think we're seeing that there's light at the end of the tunnel, but you have to understand where you are, which is what we started this whole conversation out quite a while ago. Once you understand where you are and you open up the focus a little bit, you can see where you might want to be, which is someplace other than where you are sometimes. But you got to understand where you are before you can recognize the route to get where you want to be. So we'll continue that opening of the focus in order to be able to expand vision and recognize possibilities. But it's kind of a slow process to learn. And you have to kind of do it a bit at a time. So this was a really fun one tonight.
Yeah, it was, that we have to take the time to understand the dark so we can comprehend the light and move toward it.
Absolutely.
And I love you both too, and I'm very grateful that we can spend this time together.
Same here. It's always lots of fun with you guys. All right. We will see you guys next on episode 6. I'm not sure what it's about yet, but we'll get it figured out by next time. And
can't wait.
Thanks to everyone for showing up. The views expressed in this Liberty Ark podcast are for informational and educational purposes only. They do not constitute legal or tax advice, and they may not reflect the official positions of anyone at all, really. We want to express our appreciation to the authors of the unpublished manuscript titled The Great International Heist, on which the Liberty Ark podcast is based. Rebecca and Jonathan Rodrigues, the authors, provide courses that go into much greater depth and are available at libertyarkpodcast.com/white rabbit.